Hi, and welcome to more game analysis from me, Grandmaster Simon Williams, of course. And I'm looking at now my second game from the 4 NCL. And you probably saw my first game with Tigers Modern, which was a lot of fun. And on the Sunday, I was paired against a very strong female player, Sophie Millet. And Sophie Millet is a French player. She's won the French female championships before. She's actually seeing a good friend of mine, Stephen Gordon, and I've got a picture of her here, and here she is. And in the first picture you see there, she's probably doing something that nearly every female chess player in the world has wanted to do at some point, kicking Nigel Short. And that is actually Nigel Short. They're in Thailand there, trying out some Thai boxing, and you can see Nigel getting beaten up by Sophie Millet there, excuse me, and quite a funny little situation. But I expect, lots of people will be envious of that one. And yeah, it was a very interesting game. I mean, you might have noticed my T-shirt, by the way. Thank you, Aldo from Battersea Chess Club, who has made this T-shirt. Put that in your pipe. And on the back, it's got GingerGM, and I think it's a brilliant T-shirt. It's great. Maybe we should start selling these in a GingerGM shop. What do you reckon? Would you buy one if we started selling them? I mean, I love this T-shirt, so I thank you so much, Aldo. And you've probably seen some of the Battersea Blitz games. I'll be attempting to post them, the further ones, after in future days. But I'm off to, when you see this video, it's actually recorded on Wednesday, but I'm off to Gibraltar tomorrow to commentate there, so you can catch my live commentary come Tuesday there. Anyway, on to the game. So I was white, and the game started with, well, guess what? My London system set up with bishop to f4, and well, I mean, obviously I've done quite a bit of work on this recently, so I might as well keep playing it for the time being. And now Sophie played a move that I haven't covered on my YouTube channel yet, but it's the last installment on my instruction on the London system, and that is the move c5. So if you are following my London system instruction, this game may well help you come up with some interesting ideas. And this is quite a crafty move order, because now if you try to go e3 or c3, queen b6 is a decent answer. For example, e3 has been played by I think it was Kamsky against Ivanchuk, and Ivanchuk played queen b6, and I couldn't really find anything except for a draw here, because this problem against your b2 pawn is really annoying. And if you try knight c3, this is what Kamsky played. Ivanchuk took here, knight b5. This is a bit tactical. Black has the excellent move, knight d5. And now the computer indicates the best thing to do is go rook b1, rook a1, and take the draw. And of course, there's no need to do that with the white pieces, or even with black if you're feeling confident. But I didn't want to go for a draw anyway. So the key move, if black plays c5 or move 1 or 2, is to advance with d5. And now you get quite unique positions to the London system. And if you're an improving chess player, you really have to be adaptable. You know, the London system is an opening you can play, and you can play the same, setup most of the time. But if you really want to become an expert chess player, then you have to adapt to new situations. And d5 is my recommended way to try and get an advantage for white. Now, there are a number of moves here, and I will cover them in a later video, but I won't go into the theoretical aspects of that now. Sophie played a move that Kramnik has played, b5. And this is a kind of Benko approach, where black is aiming to gain space on the queen side. And here, I really like my next move, a4. And this move is aiming to basically annoy those queenside pawns. And if black, well, what does black do? Well, black really has to push on with b4. There's not really many other good moves. Actually, Kramnik played bishop b7 here. But a very strong move against this, which white missed in Kramnik's game, is e4. This is trying to keep the top of your pyramid, your d pawn, and after knight takes e4, simply take on b5 with the a pawn. And I think this leads to a very promising game for white. So hence why Kramnik didn't repeat this bishop b7 move in future. And b4 is actually a position which I've never encountered before or looked at before. So already I'm out of my theory on move 4. And here I had a long think. I thought for about 20, 30 minutes trying to find a unique way to play this position that would lead to, shall we say, an unclear, entertaining game. Now, I had a number of ideas. I think in future a more restrained approach should be something like c4. Just trying to keep that pawn intact. And if black takes on, pass on, my knight gets a very good square. This looks like a very decent Benko kind of position. So that's a sane approach. Another sane approach. Now, just to let you into my way of thinking here, and this is, you've got to in chess really embellish your previous games. And I've had this position, if you can imagine, but with my knight on f3. And my bishop on c1. And actually, if you look at my game in the my YouTube channel, my analysis channel, the playlist there against Alan Merry, you'll see the position there. And in that game, I played knight d2. But we'll come back to that in a minute. Now, how can this maybe benefit me having a bishop on f4 or not a knight on f3? That's what I was trying to work out. Well, I think another logical move would be to move f3. Trying to prepare e4 and trying to keep this pawn here. And this is probably a fine position. There was even another very interesting move I was thinking about here in g4. It's a kind of a delayed, what's it? Oh my words, I've forgotten the name. Kilkenny Gambit. Because if knight takes g4, e4. And this looked very promising for me. Because, well, I'm attacking the knight. There's a really nasty trick here. If d6, this is a very bad move. I can win a piece now with bishop b5 check. And I take the knight on g4 because black has to put a piece onto the d7 square. This is a trick that you may know from the dragon opening. I mean, again, this is interesting. So g4 was a move I certainly considered, but I wasn't really that happy about bishop b7 here. So then I came up with a crazy idea. I came up with a move knight d2. Obviously, I saw that black could take the pawn on d5, and I thought in exchange for this, I'd gain a very good initiative because I'd be able to move my e-pawn with tempo and gain quite a big development advantage. And the more I looked at some various variations here, the more I got attracted to this knight d2 move. And already I think on move 5, this is a novel position that's never been seen in chess before, which I have to say nowadays is quite something. It's quite a unique to come up with a new position on move 5, and that's exactly what I wanted, something where we can both play. So of course black has to take that pawn, knight takes d5, and now, well, I've got a choice where I put my bishop. I had always intended to put my bishop on g5 because this gives me ideas of playing the very tricky idea knight c4, knight d6 check. If you can imagine that knight on d2 coming to d6, well, that would be a winning position because black would have to take the e-pawn, and then you can see why I placed my bishop here. But in hindsight, I think a better square for my bishop would be bishop g3. This is probably the way you should play this gambit. And you might be thinking, well, where is the compensation? Well, the compensation involves me using my e-pawn to go e4, e5 with tempo, and then my bishop can fly into the game. And I think this is very good compensation. So it's a very interesting gambit. But in hindsight, I think bishop g3 is the more correct move. Bishop g5 was interesting. And I wanted really to stop knight to f6 in a lot of positions. This is one of my main aims. I thought here, for example, if d6, I could go e4. And now if knight to f6, I could play e5. And this is one of the reasons I got attracted to bishop g5 before I played this gambit. The idea is pawn takes e5, I take on f6 and go queen f3, and there's no, I don't think there's any decent way black can avoid losing the rook on a8 here. Another reason why I put my bishop on this square. So it's a really weird position. I wasn't too afraid of h6 and g5 because I thought that might weaken black's structure. Let's have a look though, because maybe this is what black should do. Like, for example, here, bishop h4, g5, bishop g3, and now maybe bishop g7. And probably I go e4, continuing in this manner, and my knight will come to c4 to guard b2, and later on I'm going to hit out with h4 trying to open up the king side. And again, it's very messy, but I expect black is obviously absolutely fine. So this is why I went for this gambit anyway. It just seemed like a very unique position, very, unplayed, new possibilities. Now, Queen c7 was played. A very interesting response here. Moving the queen out of any of the ideas of my knight moving. Of course, I continued with e4. And in this position, Sophie played knight to f4. And this was something I underestimated. And now I wanted to really try to think about... I wanted to stop my opponent going knight to e6 easily. I want to make this move difficult for her to play. At least give her a lot of difficult decisions to make. Because it struck me that one of my main compensation here, and it's quite subtle, is that I want to stop black developing this bishop on f8. Because if black can go g6, bishop g7 and castles, I may be struggling with compensation. So I wanted to stop the setup with knight e6, g6, bishop g7. This is what I want to stop. So I played bishop h4. And I want to bring this bishop to g3. A very nasty pin that would be on the knight, which, that knight is in danger of getting in trouble when I go bishop g3 and knight h3, for example. And here I think black played a key mistake. Now Sophie moved the knight to g6, and this does gain a tempo, but in the long run, it's very hard now for black to develop in harmony. I mean, it's not the end of the world, this. I mean, black is, I'm sure, okay, but this knight on g6 is the main issue of black's position from now on. So I think my weird opening has worked around this point. I think a much better move, let's say, would have been to put the knight on e6. When I was going to play something like bishop to g3, and another thing I thought when I played the gambit with knight d2 is that if black ever puts the knight here, one advantage I have over the merry game, if you remember I said there I had a knight on f3, is that I can continue with f4, f5 in this position. So for example, d6, I can go f4. And this is again one advantage I was trying to work out before going for the pawn gambit. And again, I thought this is quite interesting because f5, I'm causing that knight some damage. It's a very unique position. But again, of course, black must be okay here as well. So knight g6, my bishop obviously comes to g3, d6. And of course, well, what did I play here? Do you even need to think about the move I played here? h4. Of course. And I'm using Harry to try and kick this knight away to a square where it's going to get kicked again. Because I want to go h5. And if knight e5, I want to go f4. Super aggressive stuff. But this looked very logical. I've gambited the pawn. I'm not playing in typical gambit fashion because I'm not going for checkmate immediately. But I'm going for a nice build-up of pieces. And I'm trying to suffocate black's development. This is what the real gambit is about here. Sophie developed with knight to c6, and now this is aiming to control the e5 square, so I quickly played knight c4. This is one of the benefits of me playing a4. This is why I played a4, because I wanted to force pawn to b4 to gain control of this key square, the c4 square. And later on, maybe this knight can even come to d5, I thought. Now here... I thought at the time a move like knight, maybe this knight, maybe the other knights, probably the other knight to e5. I thought this move at the time was not so great. Now, I can either go knight to e3 with the idea of going f4, but after knight to e3, I then saw h5 is a bit annoying. Because if I go f4... this h5 move has given black this lovely square, and I didn't like this, giving away that square. And you can see how the knight on g6, which was a terrible piece, has now become a fantastic piece. And I said, one of my ideas, this sacrifice, is to stop that knight becoming a great piece. So I originally thought that in this position, I should go knight takes knight. And I thought this should be very good compensation. For example, my bishop is now coming out to b5. Let's say, I don't know what takes, maybe pawn takes, And now I have a choice between knight f3 first or bishop to b5 straight away. And of course, my plan is just to take back the pawn on e5 at the right moment. And black has a lot of weak squares. I think this is compensation. I don't know. I think black should still do this. I don't know if it's enough. So anyway, this is what black should have done. Black played h5. Quite natural move. But now I had a good idea. Bishop e2, threatening to take that pawn. Sophie played knight d4 quickly. And here, a nice idea, bishop d3. It looks like I've lost the tempo, but I've always got the move c3. And my bishop is excellently placed at some point to take advantage of that knight there. Because now that black has moved the h-pawn, black can never take the knight with h takes g6. Black will always, if I'm able to play bishop takes g6, have to take with the f-pawn. And that's really uncomfortable. It leaves a lot of holes in black's position. So bishop g4 played, f3, bishop d7, and now c3. So I gained a tempo back that I lost. And that knight in the centre has to retreat. And again, a critical moment here. Have a think what you'd play here. Going with the philosophy, I'm not going for a quick checkmate even though a gambited the pawn. What I'm trying to do throughout this game is suffocate my opponent's pieces. And so in order to work out my next move, you should be thinking, what is black going to do next? And then you should be thinking how to stop that. A move on autopilot here would be something like knight e2, but I don't think this is a great move because now knight e5 does come. And I don't necessarily think I have enough here because Sophie's improved her position by placing a bishop on d7. And I don't like my knight on e2. It's not great. So what should you do here? Pause the video if you want to. Well, f4 is without a doubt the best move. This takes control of e5, so I'm continuing my suffocation of black's ideas. I'm really pronouncing how bad the knight on g6 is, because now that knight cannot move. I'm giving myself a more active square for my knight, the f3 square, and I don't have to worry about the g4 square, because there's only a bishop can come there, and that's not going to bother me too much, because I just go knight to f3. Now, if black could use some magic here and transfer the knight on g6 to f6, black would be doing excellently. Black would simply be a pawn up. Because if that knight can move to f6, black would be able to go knight g4. But more importantly, black would be able to develop her last piece with g6 and bishop g7. But the whole point of this gambit is to stop black being able to place her pieces on the best squares. So black is forced to do something like e6, you know, trying to get this bishop in the game. And now again, a key decision here where in chess, if you want to improve, you should play natural moves pretty quickly. But then when you think a key critical moment arises, that's when you should spend more time. And here, in my eyes, this is a key moment. Because I already had the option of playing f5 here, which is very tempting. But then I was thinking again, what is black going to do next? And I thought, well, black's only active idea is d5. So I thought, well, if I go knight to f3, which I played, this is going to be stronger for me when I go f5 because I've got one more piece developed. And that piece is critical because it covers the e5 square. For example, if I go f5 straight away, knight e5, and that is quite a nice square, maybe I'm still okay here. But if my knight is already on f3 in this position, obviously my position has improved drastically. So I played knight to f3, and the one thing I had to calculate here was d5, and if it was good or bad. I calculated at the time that it was bad, so I was trying to really wait for my opponent to kind of hang herself, make a mistake. But I think her position is very uncomfortable now because she's running out of moves. Funnily enough, I couldn't see a good move for her. I mean, if she castles queenside, now I open up the queenside by taking on b4. And I'm going to open up some nasty squares over there. The c file, the b file, something like this is going to happen. And the king doesn't look safe over there. If bishop e7, well, now I probably play f5 and I have fantastic control over this square. So black indeed, Sophie did indeed play d5. And now I put my plan into operation, which I calculated before playing knight to f3, because you really, when your opponent's got pawn breaks available, you have to make sure you have them very well covered. And you've got to make sure they're not going to, damage your position too much. Otherwise, you've got to find a way to stop them. But I was happy to see this. And I played the next sequence of moves very quickly. I took on d5. Black obviously took back. You should note now, I can't move my f-pawn because g3 is attacked. But now we see a problem with h5. Bishop takes g6. And funny enough, I think we both overlooked a decent option for black here. In this position, Sophie played pawn takes g6, which I assumed was forced at the time. Now, I had intended, after pawn takes c4, and I worked this out before playing knight to f3, the idea of playing bishop takes f7 check here. And at the time, I thought this would be crushing. Black has to take my bishop, and now queen to d5 check. And this looked very strong for me. I hadn't worked out all lines, but I just instinctively felt black is in serious trouble. For example, bishop e6 runs into knight g5 check, and I'm winning. I had only really considered king to e8, and here I thought I had a number of tempting moves, including knight g5, knight to e5, and simply castling. Bringing one rook to e1, one rook to d1, and then my knight's going to jump in, and I thought, well, this must be fantastic. Remember, black can't castle now because black's moved the king. And I thought, well, this is exactly the kind of great attacking and position I'm happy with. But maybe we both overlooked that the computer indicates to run it very quickly. Black can play the astonishing move here, king to f6. This is a move that I just would not, understandably, treat too seriously. And it says I can get a draw here by going queen g5 check, king here, queen d5 check. But it doesn't see anything stronger than that. And the king seems to survive here. Because rook e8's coming. And maybe, just maybe, this is okay for black. I haven't looked at it deeply, but I think we both miss this possibility. And that's probably Sophie's best choice. But Sophie Millet is a very active player, and this is why, again, I think I picked a clever opening choice. This gambit gave me the initiative. She's very, very dangerous when she has the initiative. Very good attacking player, very talented, beaten some top grandmasters in her time. And here, she played pawn takes g6 instead. So now I took on d5, I get my pawn back, black castled, and I played my next move instantaneously, knight to e5. And this was the key move. Without this move, black may have got very active with some bishop move unleashing the rook and my queen. But now by playing my knight to this square, I stop sort of bishop f5 because the knight on c6 is under-defended then. It's a problem piece. So this is very good now for me. Black took on e5, and now my other knight comes here. Again, I'm aiming to stop bishop c6. I have ideas of queen to a8 check. I have ideas of knight to f7. I have ideas of knight takes g6. And it's very hard to defend now for black. I think Sophie played the best moves in the bad situation. Bishop d6, at least trying to develop, trying to bring the rook in. And this is tempting. I mean, the move I didn't consider for more than a millisecond was knight to f7. This is pure greed. Tables can change. And if your king is in the center, you should not be too greedy. And this looked kind of suicidal to me. I thought, okay, maybe I win the exchange, but after something like check, I have to move my king. Bishop takes something like this. I don't know if this is the precise line, but I didn't like this. Even if I win the exchange, I didn't want to allow Sophie that attacking position she plays excellently well. So I didn't seriously consider knight to f7. Instead, I castled kingside, get my king safe, and now knight to f7 is a real threat. I think this forces bishop takes e5. That knight was too strong. I now take with my pawn, and there's still a number of problems with black's position. Bishop c6 runs into queen takes c5, and I get a very good pawn, and my king is much safer than black's. So queen c6, the move played, looked like black's best choice at the time. But now these queenside pawns of Black's are very weak, and probably I have a winning position here. So here I played Rook A D1, guarding my queen, and my plan is simply to bring my Rook to D5, take on C5, and we'll see this work very well in the game. Black is struggling here. Rook to Rook F8, trying to swap some pieces off. I happily exchanged, and now I now have done my tactical operation, and I saw a way to simplify into what I assumed was a winning ending to me. So at the right time, again, you need to change the nature of the game. And here, well, I also have A5 as a good move because Black's not got many options, but the move E6 here simplifies things and it forces the issue. Black has to now exchange queens because what else can you do here? If queen takes E6, queen A8 is checkmate. And after a 4 sequence, bishop takes pawn, rook takes C5 check. The black king doesn't have any squares to go to. Sophie wanted avoided rook C7 check, so king D8. And now I took on B4. I'm only a pawn up in an opposite coloured ending, but it looks very bad for Black. Black's pawn on the king side is totally irrelevant. Black's coordination with her pieces is very bad. My rook and bishop are very dangerous. And the A-pawn is very weak. So I've got a couple of plans here. One plan is to win this A-pawn with rook A5, bishop F2. And then I'd have 3 pawns, 2 connected pass pawns rolling down the board. Another plan is to simply push my pawn all the way to B8 with the help of my A-pawn. This looked like a very good plan to me. The one thing I should do here is avoid an exchange of rooks, because of course if the rooks are exchanged, then my position, it's an opposite kind of bishop ending, it's probably a draw. But the game, let me show you how it continued. It went rook F7. I saw, again, you've always got to think how your opponent's aiming to get active, and you've always got to think how to stop that. I thought Sophie's clever idea here was rook D7 and rook D2. So I played bishop E5, and my idea was, if rook D7, to go bishop to C3. And I thought this was an excellent square for my bishop. It controls this square, and I'm just going to move my pawns up over here, and it looks very difficult. Now, Sophie was very short of time here, which didn't help her play. She played bishop b3, probably erring a little bit, making my job easier. And now she played bishop a4, but I saw I had a little tactical idea, b5, rook b7, and my tactical idea here is b6. She took on b6, and now the point of this is if rook takes b6, bishop c7 wins the rook. And I think Black's last chance here was to play a move like rook to d7. This was the last chance available. And I assumed this should be winning here, but I couldn't actually see how at the time. I mean, bishop c7 check, king c8, and Black is holding on. And that big difference here is at least Sophie has some hope that her rook can activate in a number of positions, and maybe there's some holding chances even here. I don't know. I mean, it looks like it should be winning for me, but I have a lot of work to do. Instead, because she was short of time, she played king e8 immediately, and now after bishop c7, you can see I've created a cage around this rook on b7. I'm now simply playing with basically, if you just remove the highlighted pieces from the board, I'm playing with the other pieces. I'm playing with my rook versus the bishop, because this cage I've created around the rook means that rook can never escape. It's a dead rook, and my bishop is worth just as much as that rook. And okay, I mean, I could have won quicker, but it's always going to be winning now. My simple plan is to use my king and my rook to dominate my opponent's bishop and king and slowly make progress. So let's just see how the endgame stage went. It went king to e7. My king now comes in, and you can see my king making progress. Black will have to retreat at some point because my rook is going to outpower the bishop. So my next aim of this plan is to force the king back even further. So no need to rush doing this. And eventually I get to do this. So here you can see with this check, I have the opposition. I'm forcing that king to retreat. I make more progress in my king. And you can see little by little, Black is running out of ideas. And now, after b4, this is where I made a slight mistake here. I could have won the game a lot quicker. And I realised as soon as I made my next move where my mistake was. I'm going to leave it to you here to work out how I could have won the game immediately. A little tactic here, which would have probably, after a couple of moves, just led to resignation. So I wasted an hour of, getting home an hour earlier by not finding this tactic. And of course, white is winning, but black is all totally okay for black to play on, because there's always some chances, of me going wrong. Okay, so how did I win? Well, I took my time, and my idea here was really to get my king to c6 at the right moment. And I now have another winning idea. My other winning idea is put my king on a6, and then if I need to, play rook c6. This was another winning idea, but in actual fact I thought I didn't need to do this now, because I can start mopping up pawns. Why not? And after king d6, well, this is a very difficult position. I've won an extra pawn, and black is in a lot of trouble here. Not really much way to defend. This check is very crafty, because I'm trying to make Sophie play king to f6. There's a little subtlety here. If I go king to c6 first, bishop g2 check allows Sophie to get the bishop on her ideal diagonal. But the problem is, with her position, this bishop is very unstable on this diagonal. It's not defended by any pawn, so I might be able to attack it with my rook. So what I did here by going rook e7 check first, I'm trying to make black play king to f6, because now I had the very crafty move rook to e2, and now king to c6 is coming next. Why have I forced my opponent's king to f6? I want to stop bishop to f1. This does stop it, because rook f2 would win that bishop. So in this structure, Sophie is forced to retreat even further. And I'm just trying to find out now how the game went. I think it went king g8 here. And now, okay, you can see how I'm just creating a net around the king. My next stage, bring my king in to try to get a checkmate position. And I'm not even worried about losing this pawn. This is an irrelevant pawn. We can see I'm creating this net around the black king. Sophie tries to hold on to that pawn, but I check. This forces the black king into the corner, because if king f8, bishop d6 check, it's pretty clockwork now. And here, well, now just rook takes g6. Because like I said before, it really doesn't matter here. If the bishop takes, my king completely winning, because I've blocked out this black rook. And the game ended, king here. Now a nice little check here, forcing the king back, because if king h6, bishop f4 is mate. And now when the kings come back, I just move I'm making bit by bit progress. I'm attacking the pawn. Sophie tries to defend it, but now king to g6. And in this position, she resigned, because it's clear I have a number of ways to win. I'm going to go rook takes h5 check as one of my simple ways. My other idea is king h6 and bishop e5 checkmate. So it's clear this is winning. So in an interesting game, I think they had some novel moments, some sort of interesting opening play. And I think I got the kind of position Sophie doesn't like playing. And, she's a very strong player, like I said. And, it's kind of position I enjoy. So that is half the battle won in chess. Get the kind of position you like. And that's what happened there. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that analysis. Good weekend for me. 2 out of 2. And like I said, I'll be commentating over in Gibraltar over the next 2 weeks. So you can tune into my commentary on chess.com or on the Gibraltar chess site. And that's going to be great. There's going to be a Van Chook playing. So please come join me with a commentary there. I hope you enjoyed this video. And please like, please subscribe. That does help me. I need to get more subscribers in order to keep doing these regularly. Tell me what kind of videos you like. I'm mixing up a little bit at the moment. I have a little break from online blitz, trying to concentrate some other things just for a change. Okay, thank you very much, and I'll see you again, I'm sure, shortly. Goodbye for now.